Welcome to the Autospeed podcast, home of stock car and banger racing in the southwest.
Hi, this is Crispen Rosevear from the Autospeed podcast. We have a guy that makes the cars look really smart and really neat and presentable, which is Andy Boswarthick from Signs by Andy. But before then, we have a guy who's certainly not making the cars look presentable because he smashed up an awful lot in his time, and that's young Jacob Reed, Banger 846. Jacob, welcome to United Downs Raceway, which is pretty much home for you. Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about your racing. Go back to the very beginning. How did you get started in the racing?
Well, I first started with watching my dad race a bit. He used to do a little bit of it, and then I did a passenger meet with him down at St Kevin once in a Mark II Fiesta, I think it was. And so I did that, and ever since then I got instantly hooked. And Dad built me a little non-contact car for grass up there before it all shut down. And so I did a little bit there, and yeah, ever since then it's just progressed and been addicted ever since.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. That's an interesting start. I think that's probably typical of a lot of people in racing.
Yeah.
That it's a family thing.
Yeah, I'd say 100% family all the way.
And of course, that definitely applies to you with your sister having raced in the Micro F2s as well.
Yeah. I'm gonna say Dad's raced. I do meets with Dad here sometimes. Lexi's raced Micro F2s and she loved it and all. And I think as soon as she's finished playing with her horses, she wants to do bangers and all. And I know my mum this year is going to have a couple meets in the rookies because she said she's always wanted to do it. So we're going to have a little team out there, I think, to have a little go.
It's one hell of a family day out for sure. Cool, nice one. So you say about racing at St Kevin, which is no longer here. How many tracks do you think you've raced at during your time racing?
I have to have a count. I've done St Kevin, then it went to Gweek, so I think I did 2 or 3 meets there. That wasn't very long at all. Then obviously I did my very first meet at Smeeth up at Banger Bonanza.
Oh yeah, when the car got absolutely trashed.
Yeah, and so I did juniors at Launceston for a little bit before I was old enough to get hooked into the bangers. Then obviously St Day I've done multiple times.
Yeah, quite a lot of racing at St Day.
Ringwood to do some of the rookie world things and the All Granada meet.
Oh yeah,
up there. What other tracks have I done? I'm trying to think.
Stanley.
I haven't been Stanley.
Mendips.
Yeah, I've done Mendips twice, I think. So I've been to Birmingham Wheels.
Oh right, okay.
And Lexi went there as well.
Yeah. So, Micro.
Yeah, and then I think that's really it. And so predominantly it's mainly here and Smeeth up that I do because I only ever race when my whole family's there because family day out. But I have got my other little bucket list of tracks that I want to explore in the future. But the main one's obviously St Day for me.
For sure. And being located where you are in, in the far west of Cornwall, it's a fair old trek to even get to Smeeth up, let alone to go to the rest of England.
Yeah, normally in the lorry it's just about 2 hours to Smeeth up, and say with the fuel and the car on the back and all, it takes a fair while. But a bit further on is a bit more. But let's say it's all good fun and worth it for the smiles after.
So the tracks you've raced at, have you any that you particularly enjoy? Is there a track that's your favourite? Or
I'd say my favourite, biasedly, has got to be St Day, and say I've loved that track ever since practice days, and say my first meet here, and say it's something about the track, the shape of it, the way it go in a car is always probably up there with one of my favourite things. No matter what, good days racing, bad days racing, there's always an amazing track.
And quick to get home.
Yeah, it's a 5-minute thing and I'm back home.
Racing here, do you find many people come and chat to you in the pits that are local to where you live?
Yeah, and so you always got local people that you see every day, or friends, or people that come into my work, come over, say hello, and say everyone's always friendly, smiley, chatty, and say it's always a good thing in the pits. It passes the time while you're waiting for all the cars to be scrutineered and ready to go.
Yeah, that's good, I think, because for the whole. One of the foundations of our racing is it's a community, and so fantastic to see people that in everyday life to just come and enjoy the day on a race day.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's always good support as well. Say always see the smiley people after you've come off the track, on the track, come over and see how you've done, and I want to say it's always an amazing feeling, really.
Cool. Thinking back to last year, when last year started, and there was the big question mark was hanging over St Day and whether it was going to survive. And then when we got the good news that the season was going to go ahead, it must have been around that time that you made this crazy decision to go and build a limo.
Yeah, me and Dad built that, and say we always had the thing of we want to build a micro limo, and say we've seen a couple on the internet where people have raced them and all, and we had 2 K10 4 doors, and was like, and say with the meet coming back, it was like that's the place we're gonna race it and build it, and say we built it, brought it out, and say it's probably one of the most fun races I've ever had, being a bit of the big target for the meet. Everyone in it trying to go through the side of it, and all. Say it was a good laugh and good fun, and I think that was the best meet to race it at, coming back to my favourite track, and that helps sponsor and publish more people to come here and see what a phenomenal track it is.
Certainly, it was it was a fantastic car which captured the imagination. Thinking back to you making it and sort of gluing 2 cars together, for those of us watching it just fantastic. They've put 2 cars together to make some kind of a limo, but talk to me a little bit about the work that must have gone involved, because
yeah, and say there's definitely a good couple stressful nights building it, and say but cutting the cars apart was the easy bit, and then it was the design, because we wanted to make sure it had all 3 doors and not just stretch with 2 doors. And then and say so trying to cut and fabricate the doors out the other micros and bits of steel, and then obviously the strengthening through the main support of it, because you didn't want to one hit and it collapse
just
and snap.
apart.
And say so it's trying to build it safely, and a lot of welding and strengthening it where it's not over strong and it's gonna crash and fold and not just hit and nothing happens. And say there's a lot of stressful nights and hard work that went into it, more than people understand.
I was going to say that I think that for if you're at racing and you're involved with a race team, then you have a clear indication of what's involved. But I think for a lot of people just coming and seeing the cars, you have no understanding of just how much effort goes into it just to get a car on the track.
And say every car, and say the appreciation that goes through doing them, and all racers will see, and say the supporters see them, and that's the best bit, is when they screaming and cheering when you crash or when you get out of the car safely and all. And say makes the hard work and the effort that goes towards it worthwhile.
So the obvious question really is whether you'd consider doing another homemade limo.
Yeah, and say we've got one lined up. I've got another 2 K10 micros ready to cut and weld and glue together. And say I think we're planning on doing it roughly probably for the Bag of Bonanza at Christmas, because it was my very first national meet up there, and I say I loved it, and to say I can't think of a better way to go back to that meet than with a stretched limo.
I think there was something on the Northern Bangers page where they had a list of all the homemade limos. It was incredible to think how many have been raced, over the last couple of decades, and there was yours as part of it. So you're gonna end up getting a name for yourself as the guy with the homemade limo from Cornwall, a crazy guy.
Yeah, it was always good to get a bit of recognition, and say puts a smile on my face, and again helps push towards the making it worthwhile, knowing that your hard work and dedication's been noted and
just recognised. Some kind of a recognition for it. So the car survived a lot that day. I think it probably outlasted more than the predictions at the start of the day. You're saying people come around and looked at it before racing and where's it going to break and whatever, but you got quite a lot out of the car that day.
Yeah, it was definitely one that I knew the target was going to be on my head and people going around, so I thought my best thing was best form of defence is attack. So any car I seen, I just made sure if it was in my way, I was going through it and just keep going around the track, and every time I see a car, just hit it and waiting for it to finally get decimated, which I got stuck in the top corner where it got hit, and then it was still going but just didn't have the grip to drag itself around, so managed to pull it out. And say I had a lack of spares for it that day, but so we managed to pull it and get it enough to go out in the DD, and say it didn't do too bad in the DD, and I had a good couple smacks in the DD, and saying it still managed to start after, but just couldn't get going.
Couldn't get any momentum into it. But no, that's great to think all that effort and for it to have some kind of worth at the end of it, and the recognition. I think that's really good. But then I think as last year went on, we didn't really see too much more of you.
No, and say the last year I did have a crazy thing of, with the expense of it, I did eventually sell everything, but I say that lasted about a month, and then I was like, oh no, can't do this, and I've bought everything essentially back, different cars and all, but I say it was a crazy decision at the time and all, but I couldn't live without the racing. I say it's my hobby and my passion, so I say I bought it and just had a year of collecting everything ready to to go again this year and hopefully have a more exciting venture this year.
Yeah, just end up doing a little bit more. But I guess, you know, possibly a little bit of burnout from so much effort to go into that first car, into the homemade limo.
Yeah.
That probably influenced your next thinking, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say there's decent. I don't know how much probably went into it, but I was going to say with the metal to try and strengthen it, and the sign writing and the painting it, and say a bit of money went into it, and with the unlimiteds and all that I raced, and say the price of them were skyrocketing. So I was like, I don't know if I'll have enough to do loads and loads of it. So I kept scaled down. I kept a couple micros and the odd Focus, but I was scaled down and sold everything. And then a couple months later I did a memorial meet up North Cornwall and just realised I can't keep selling them. I was hooked instantly and bought everything back. I was like, I can't do it. So this year got everything back ready.
Cool. So to summarise, we should see more of you this year.
Yes, definitely.
That's great. Okay, for sure. And in terms of you say about your little bit of a bucket list of tracks to go to, is there one at the top of that list that you really want to attend, or?
Got to be Ipswich. My aim is go Ipswich World Final, and say so that's my aim, to try and go through Autospeed, and say as my thing, try and hopefully qualify through Autospeed and a couple maybe the BWS rounds they do.
Cool, for sure. And I think that's that's a very popular series with a very popular end goal, and some people go to Ipswich with the thought of winning, and some people just go just because they want to be part of the event. Yeah,
and say I'd never really go for the winning, and say I'm more for making the crowd smile and go, if there's a car, go and hit it, and if there's no cars, make sure I'm the one that gets hit. If no one's hitting anything, I'll just jam on my brakes down the straight and make sure that there's a bit of entertainment going on.
In terms of people that help or sponsors or whatever, have you got much support? I mean, now's an ideal opportunity to name check a few of them, for sure, at the risk of you missing someone out. Hopefully not.
Yeah, for the main ones are obviously my work, Highway Plant. I said they're one of the main sponsors. I always have them on my car. They always help me by letting me build a car and the work if I'm running behind, or when I get sign writing, they always sign write it in there where Andy's accessible in the dry and all. My hairdresser, Pez the barber, he's local, and say no matter where or when, he has a mobile barber, so he'd come out and do haircuts before a meet or whatever. When I'm working, he'll come down to my work and do it, and say he's always good. And say the main one is my dad's business, JEJ, Car and Commercials, and say he always helps me build them, and say he's a perfectionist with them, and say I always have a good car knowing I'm going to be safe in it with me and him building it. And say Smokey Joe's Cafe, which is a popular one, he's always paying and contributing a bit towards fuel or whatever. He loves racing and all, and say a lot of racers go there for breakfast on the way down or on the way back. Andy Boswarthick for sign writing them, and say he always drop a hat, will come do them, and say
I think I need to pick you up on Signs by Andy, how you've got a magic solution that drop of a hat he'll come and sign, and other people are sat in a queue, the busy boy.
Yeah, and say he's always busy, and say but if there's a big meet and you ask him, he'll always manage to, even if it's last minute, he'd always try and find a way to squeeze you in somewhere if it's a cancellation or whatever. And say he's always phenomenal with it, and say he always has a long way list, but if he can, he'll try and get you in before you meet and all. And say if it's weekends or what, see work, and say he's always amazing and always does a fantastic job.
Yeah, I think Andy's growing with with each passing season. Andy just gets better and better, which I'm sure is.
It's always good to see, especially considering how local he is, and say normally you don't really have it down here, and say I think he's got a lot of the community down here, and say everyone knows him and everyone loves him, and say he's always spot on with it and always friendly, chatty. I can never do enough for someone.
Great, that's great, Jacob, and the only way to end is wish you the very best for this season, and we look forward to seeing you and keep that entertaining.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here.
Thanks very much then, listening to some interesting stories and tales there from Jacob. And now we'll move on to the guy who often makes Jacob's car looks great even at the start of the meeting, even if they're not so at the end of it. And that's Andy Boswarthick from Signs by Andy. Our next guest today is Andy Boswarthick, better known as Signs by Andy in the racing community. Welcome, Andy.
Hello there, thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to take you all the way back to school. Okay, as a starting point
that's a while, yeah.
for our little chat. What were you like at art?
To be honest, I was never really much into it. I used to draw cars on my school books and things, but that's about as far as it ever went, really. Yeah, just a bit of doodling, nothing serious. Never did art at school. Nothing
Okay.
like, no.
I mean, this is not about me, but I remember with my at school, that art was the last thing that I ever thought that I was going to take, and I got encouraged to do it. And in the last couple of years, the teacher that I had showed me some fabulous techniques for painting and drawing and whatever, and somehow this latent art, I can hardly call it talent, but whatever I had was dragged out of me, and I did certainly, I didn't do that well, but I certainly did far better than I expected. So just interesting to see other people that art comes to later in life.
I've always been into my cars. Even when I started secondary school, I was into my custom cars and hot rods and things. I used to buy Street Machine monthly and just sit like doodling little bits out of that, really. But yeah, other than that, no real interest in art really when I was at school like that. I'd rather be out riding my bike and so on.
So in terms of your sign work, how long have you been doing that, and what was it that triggered it? What got you started on that?
It all started by accident, really. Back in 2014, Liam, my son, got invited to an RC racing club, Banger Club, and I took him along to that. I thought, God, what's the interest in racing little cars around a hole on an oval and things like that? And then all of a sudden, he got so into it that you get a fresh shell each meeting, you have to cut out, and I just started drawing on them with paint pens first, and then Sharpies, and then I got a few little model paints and things, and it sort of started from there, and it's been a snowball ever since, really.
Okay, because I'm sure that's going to be a really novel answer. I don't think too many other people will have started that way.
No, it's like I say, it was purely by accident. I'd say after a few months, there was a few others in the club, and they said, "Oh, if you can do one for Liam, can you do one for me for next meeting?" And it sort of went on, and then Liam jokingly started up Signs by Andy on Facebook, just as a thing to put pictures up there, really. He was like the main moderator of it at the time, and whenever I did a show for him, he'd take pictures, put it on there, and it sort of, I'd say, snowballed from there, really. Had a few people like up different clubs further up want them, and then started doing a few for people in like Scotland and Ireland and all sorts of things, really.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, if I did a few of those each week, it paid for my racing with the RC stuff as well, because by then I'd got into it, and it's just sort of ticking me over, really, evenings after work. Yeah.
So can you then think back to the first real car, first full size car that you?
Yeah, it sticks in my mind because it was absolutely shocking, really. A few people that I obviously knew from racing down here and things. I think it was like Jason Spry and Scott Kendall, and that they all had a meeting coming up. And they said, "Well, if you can do small stuff, can you do something on our cars just to go up to one of the like team meetings somewhere or something?" Yeah. So after work, after doing my driving lessons one day, I went back to their workshop, drew on there what I thought would look good, painted it, and that's where it went from there. Then, yeah.
So you look back and cringe at those early cars?
Yeah, I've still got the picture just to remind me of how bad I was back then. The main thing was going for something sort of 18 inches long to something 16 feet long. Yes. Everything I put on was just small and lost and things, really, and I thought, no, I've got to make it bigger than this, and sort of fill in a few of the gaps and things, but yeah.
And do you feel that you learned that really quickly, or has it been a slower progression?
It took a few weeks doing it. I was probably doing, I suppose, I did like 4 cars for one meeting, then a few weeks later another meeting would come up, so I did another couple of cars for there. So it took a while to get into it. I suppose at first, ones that I was happy with were probably 6 months down the line from there, really. Yeah.
And in terms of now, is this full time, or is this still a part time?
No, it is full time now. Yeah. I suppose 5-6 years ago, Ringwood World Final, Rookie World Final was a big thing, and it got to the point where I was taking a couple of weeks off work to say, right, that 2 weeks I'm just doing the signs, and I booked in a load of cars, and then the following year, like Easter, start of the season, a load of people interested, so I'll take another week off work, and I sort of like gradually building up that way. And then when we went into lockdown, couldn't do any of the driving tuition that was at the time, so I started doing a lot more like roof fins, visors, things like that, selling those, and they kept me going through lockdown and never really went back to it then.
Okay.
It sort of took over from there, yeah.
That's cool. And in terms of other sign writers, are there other sign writers out there that give you some inspiration to do things, or is that?
There is loads, yeah. I mean, two main ones that I think are amazing. One is Chris McGrath, absolutely brilliant. Love to meet him one day and just see how he does it, some of the artwork he does. Dom Davies, country, he does some really nice stuff as well. And then we've got the other ones that come down here that I always sort of look up to and try and raise my standard, like SJ and Boogie and that. Get quite a lot of their stuff down here, and I think, I want to be that good one day.
Do you think you could take us through a typical sign writing job? I think that for for some of us, it's fascinating. Love to come and watch it. I mean, do you mind being watched when you go to someone's place? Or?
No, I don't mind now. Get a bit of a shaky hand sometimes when they're stood right behind me watching and things, but no, I just sort of got used to it. I know I did a few local cars down here, and the guys take the day off work for me to be in the workshop and things, and they haven't got a lot to do, so they'll just happily sort of pull the chairs up and sit back by the wall and watch me, and you get used to it after a little while, yeah.
Okay, I know that from my own experience, I've mesmerised by it, and just the techniques, and I think as well that for some of the techniques, the process is start at the end and work backwards, and so it's to pull the curtain back and reveal and think, oh, that's how it's done.
Yeah. It's I know a lot of a typical bang or whatever probably take me 6-7 hours to do a whole car a day and that, and probably the first 4 or 5 hours everything looks really bland, and you're sort of thinking, is this going to actually work at the end of it? And you get a little bit of airbrush on there, a bit of highlights, a bit of shadowing, and then you put the borders around, and it sort of really starts to come alive in the last sort of hour and a half then.
I mean, I can certainly vouch for that in terms of the mural that was done at United Downs Raceway. When the graffiti artist Cosmic did that with the children and everything, it was one of the most wonderful experiences ever. And I remember that took several hours, and as that was building up, I remember looking at it and thinking, oh, this is quite good, and then just the last half an hour when he ran around and did the outlines and all those little touches, and it came to life, and it was just wonderful. So yeah, I can that resonates really clearly. The last few touches are what brings it to life.
That's it. It's it just, like I say, gives a whole new dimension to it, really. The depth, 3D, the stars, the sparkles, things like that, it all makes a big difference. Like I say, that's all in the last sort of hour and a half of doing one, big difference.
So when you turn up at someone's place, I guess that they've got a list of, some people are far more organised than others, I imagine.
Yes, yeah. Some people, they'll have the car sprayed the week before. They'll send you pictures showing you what you're painting, and they'll send you logos of things you're copying to go on there. And you can sort of start planning out where you're going to put things in your mind then. Others, you don't know what you're going to be painting when you get there, what car it is, what's going on it. And sometimes you get there and they suddenly just finish spraying it and paint's still very wet.
A little bit tacky.
Yeah, but big variation in what I do, yeah. Most people have got, like I say, they're pretty well organised now. I've nagged a few of them and say, well, you need to spray it at least a day before I get there, not 3 hours and that. But no, it's...
Being as fussy as I am with spelling and bits and pieces like that, I can imagine turning up and thinking, do you really want these words on, or is this spelt wrong, or is this really the name of a sponsor or something?
That is my biggest fear, is spelling something wrong. I've done it. Worst thing seems to be phone numbers with me. I've missed a digit or got two the wrong way around and things. I know last year, practice day, Smee thought I did a mini for someone the week before, and I got two of their phone numbers, the digits the wrong way around. So I was like, right, I'm going to have to take my paints up. And it's absolutely chucking down with rain up there, so I had my coat over me, trying to wipe the old number off, get the new one on, get a bit of heat on there so they could dry before they went out practicing and things. So it does happen, yeah. And I've seen, look, every time I go to a meeting now, I'll look around all the cars out there, try and get ideas what to do. And I've seen some corker spelling mistakes on others and things. I think, oh, it's not just me then.
No, it's standard for the industry, I imagine. This is a very unfair question, I know, but You must have some which stand out and think, oh, I really did a great job there. I know self-praise is no praise, but there must be some that stick in your mind. You think, I'm so satisfied with what I did.
Yeah. When I do the car, I'm always very critical. If I go away and I'll come back a few days later and see it and think, oh, it actually looks quite good.
Okay.
Because when you're painting it, you're right close. You see every little thing you're doing, and every little flaw sort of niggles you a little bit. I suppose one of the best ones, I would, again, at Ringwood Rookie World Final, I probably did like 30 odd cars for that meeting, and I got up there and I was walking down the pits and I was looking across, I think, oh, that car looks nice down there. I didn't actually realise it was one I painted about 4 weeks before. That's the first time I ever sort of done that. I didn't recognise it, but I thought, yeah, it stands out. It looks really good, that one.
That must have been great. That must have been a fabulous feat.
Yeah. I mean, I've done a few sort of nice, really obscure things, and you look back at it and think, oh yeah, I do like that one. I'll use that one as my profile picture or something, because it really stands out.
That must have been really weird to be going along thinking, oh, I wish I painted that. I had. I did. So looking ahead, your diary's really busy?
I'm booked up to the other side of Easter at the moment, so about 8 weeks or so for my next job to go in now. Things change from day to day. I had one ring up last week. He's had to cancel because of family issues, so that's like 2 days now. But I've got people that are sort of waiting so they can then fit in there. There's always something to do if a day cancels or something. But yeah, looking really busy at the moment. Yeah,
Certainly not short of things to do.
No. But, and plenty of variation at the moment. Things like coming out for Day in the Sun down here. Last week I was at Exmouth doing a work truck for someone. Bit of mobile advertising for them.
So it's not all race cars then?
No, it's
extended beyond that.
Workshop walls, bedroom walls for children. Probably the highlight of last year or earlier this year, I had to go up to Reading and do a 1929 Ford truck, really old vintage thing, and he wanted Indian Motorcycles logos put down the side and things, and sort of aged to make it look like it'd been on there from original and things. So that was a lovely day at that one. Yeah.
Quite a challenge as well.
Yeah, it's one of those where you stand back and think, do I really want to touch this with a paintbrush, because it's just so nice as it is and that. But get a few more jobs like that now. It's really nice.
Great stuff. Well, wish you all the best with this. Is it, a career change?
Yeah, well, the plan was to semi-retire when I started it, not a new career really. It's just, but yeah, it's definitely taken over.
All right, great stuff. Thank you very much, Andy.
Thank you.
Interesting stuff with Andy there, to see Andy moving on from being once upon a time a driving instructor and now self-sufficient, as it were, with his sign riding business, just part of the whole industry of stock car and banger racing. Finally today, our third guest on the podcast is Donna Crosby, which is mum of 511 and 51 in the Micro F2s, Anna and Lexi Crosby. And so we're going to have a little chat now with Donna ahead of the new season for the little ones. So the eve of a new season.
Yep.
What is it like being a mum of little ones racing in the Micro F2s?
Quite nerve-wracking when they first start, but then after that it's absolutely lovely watching them thriving and just enjoying coming racing.
Yeah. Okay. So you're past the really nervous bit.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I don't know. It's Anna's first proper race season this season. Yeah. So I'm sure she'll get my nerves going more than what Lexi does.
You're a little bit more calm with that. I know.
Yeah, Lexi's a lot calmer. Anna's just a bit wild.
And in terms of when you are watching them, are you an ultra competitive mum that are desperate for them to do well? Or are you just happy that they're just loving it?
I'm very competitive, same as Dan, their dad. Yeah, but they just take it in their stride. You can't, if you try pushing them too much, they just rebel against you.
Absolutely.
So it's not worth doing it.
Yeah, I think that's never a truer word. I think that the more you push them, the less they're going to enjoy it. They need to find their own feet. Yeah.
Lexi, to be fair, she just likes being out there making up the numbers, and she doesn't care if she comes last. She just enjoys being out there and enjoys racing. It's
supposedly non-competitive, but that's to make sure that we take the edge off it. We don't want it to be all about winning, because certainly when they're at that age, I know it sounds a little bit sort of a little bit fluffy, but there definitely are children that are really happy to be able to race a car and really happy to make new friends in the pits.
Yeah, I noticed last season when there was the 2-day ones and all the kids were out playing together, the friendships they were getting, like bonding together, it was absolutely lovely to watch. And that's what the girls are looking forward to this year, because they get to see their friends again as well as do the racing.
Yeah, that's a really good thing, and I think that's I think it's fantastic if you just sort of observe from afar and just look at the general group, how they all mingle together in the pits, and then you're racing in a moment, everyone has to go and get ready and go out and race, and then they come back in and
they're straight away off playing together. Yeah, it's lovely to watch.
It is, yeah, really, really good in that respect. Last season ended, I understand, in the freezing cold at Buxton.
Yeah, it was absolutely Baltic. Yeah.
So if it was freezing cold at Buxton, it could have been, well, any month really. It could have been the summer.
Yeah.
Because that is Buxton in a
Yeah, I
nutshell.
think it was November we was up there. So, yeah, it was very cold. The kids were coming back. Anna's lips were blue. We had a few tears because she was absolutely freezing. But lucky enough, Amy managed to say to her, "Come on, pull yourself together. It's the last race. Let's go." And she did go out there and do it. You couldn't even see your hand. You couldn't even see the car in front of you. It was raining, windy, absolutely Baltic.
Yeah, they say about the St Day having its own microclimate, but we're very much in the warm and sexy south in comparison to Buxton.
Yeah, definitely.
That really is very high up, and when it's cold at Buxton, you know about it.
Yeah, definitely.
And where else? Obviously, raced at Smeethart.
Yeah.
Any other tracks you've been to?
No, I don't think we have. Yes, we went to Northampton.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, we done the 2-day at Northampton as well.
Okay.
That was a wet one as well. Yeah.
You don't want to get a reputation for taking poor weather out of Cornwall.
No,
to
definitely
these
not.
venues.
No, you want to bring the warm weather with you and bring it back again.
So Dan's been busy on the cars in the winter.
Yep, and he's also racing next weekend as well with the kids. It'll be the 3 Crosbies racing together.
Oh yes, of course, yeah, for sure. So one of the cars has changed identity to the green and yellow.
Yep, Anna wanted to be like her daddy, so the green and yellow's come back.
Okay, great stuff. And obviously they're what do you think they're probably looking forward to? Is it meeting the rest of the racers, or is it the actual racing, or I don't know.
I think it's a bit of both.
Combination.
Yeah, like we're hoping to go to Skegness in May with them, but we've just said to them they've got to show us that they want to do it, and a bit of competitiveness, that's the word I was looking for, and then we're going to do it. And our men dips as well, I've got one.
Yeah.
Is that August? I think that's August.
Yeah, that's August. That'll be summertime.
Yeah.
It's
but Lexi finishes in June.
Oh right.
So
okay.
it'll just be Anna then.
Okay. Yeah, Mendits were great. They very, very lightly had their arm put up their back to go on, give them a go.
Yeah.
And they fell in line with it, and I think that was terrific. So yeah, a bit of a summertime trip for everyone there.
Nice Wednesday evening as well, so at least you've still got the weekends to do what you want.
Another circuit, another track.
Yeah.
And I think I hope that'll be a nice, decent summer's evening for the youngsters.
Oh, hopefully.
That'll be really good. Great stuff. Well, thanks ever so much for your time today.
That's all right.
And giving us a few words. Wish the girls the best of luck for the season. And
Thank you very much.
Hope they continue having fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Autospeed podcast. Next week we'll be concentrating on the forthcoming Open Track Day at the United Downs Raceway, when our guests will be Callum Hosey and Adam Pearce.
If you've enjoyed Autospeed Podcast, home of stock car and banger racing in the southwest, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell for future podcasts.